Dan Brown is just classic dad thriller, dad fiction, wears New Balances day in and day out. Cute. Okay. Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, and you are here at The Farm D Reads, where I like to babble and bull spit about books that I read and mildly things that are going on in my life. Wow, long-winded of me, isn't it? Okay, we're on the floor because I have my stack of books from May already here because I had taken a picture for Instagram. But in case the title didn't tell you, you are here. Danny's shaking her head right next to me. You are here for my May wrap-up. And it was quite a month. I read 28 books in 30 days. I blacked out a little. And it was just a really good reading month. I had some downtime with work just because of where we're at in the process. And I am just so pleased with this past month. Do I think I'm gonna read 28 books ever again in a month? Probably not. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, I don't know. But anywho, let us just get into it. I decided that for this wrap up, I am gonna go in chronological order, so in the order that I actually read the books. So the first book that I read was Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson, and this was such a good way to start the month. So this is a very short read. I think it was only about, I don't know, maybe less than 200 pages. And it is a very sapphic, atmospheric horror novel. Really, really enjoyed it. I got the recommendation from Riley Marie, and I cannot say enough good things about it. I haven't read anything else by Delilah S. Dawson, but I know that she wrote A Dowry of Blood, I believe. No, that's S.T. Gibson. What did Delilah S. Dawson read? I mean, right. The Violence. Okay, so I actually have read that. I gave that 3 stars, but anyway, Bloom, so good. It's following our main character Rosemary, who meets Ash at a farmer's market and just like instantly becomes absolutely infatuated with her, and they start dating. You follow their little romance, and you very clearly as the reader get all these red flags from Ash, but Rosemary is so love blind that she can't see it until the very end, and I did not expect the ending to go the way that it did, and it was chef's kiss, immaculate. 5 stars. Absolutely incredible. I really can't wait to get my hands on a physical copy also because the cover is top tier. The next book that I read was The Spite House by Johnny Compton, and this was a fun and very fresh take on the haunted house. So this follows a family of a dad and his 2 daughters that are running away from something. You don't really quite know what, but you do know that they're like run away from their life and they've left the mom behind, and he ends up accepting a position that he finds an ad for to run this spite house. So through the novel, I learned that a spite house is a house that is purposely built to piss people off. And like, if that doesn't make you want to read this book, I'm not sure what else I could possibly say about it. This was so good. It was very atmospheric. We get multiple POVs. It was like really introspective as well, with the commentary on racism because the family is Black in a small southern Texas town. And I just loved everything about this. I think I gave it 4 stars, and if you are looking for something that gives like how to sell a haunted house, but if the house was built like insanely, right? So there's like walkways where there shouldn't be and doors where there shouldn't be, this book is going to give you that. So I highly recommend adding it to your horror TBR. Again, 4 stars, loved it. Okay, the next book that I read is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due, and I gave this 5 stars, but like you have to know that it is very difficult to read. So the subject matter is very heavily ingrained in racism and segregation. It takes place in the 1950s in Marianna, Florida, and it is based on a true story. And I actually live, well, my home that I own in Florida, I don't live in Florida anymore, but my home that I still own in Florida is relatively close to the actual boys' school that the Reformatory is based on. I can't remember which crime podcast it was. I want to say, I can't remember. It's the one with Alyssa, and she wrote The Butcher and the Wren. It's that one. Morbid? Is it Morbid? It might be Morbid, but they did a podcast episode on the actual home in Mariana Boys School, and it is haunting, much like this book. So this book follows our young character Robert, who puts his hands on a white man and ends up being sent to the Reformatory for 6 months for his bad behavior. And the Reformatory is very haunted, and Robert can see the spirits that are there. And while we're getting that POV, we're also getting the POV of his sister, who's on the outside trying to break him out of the school. Please check trigger warnings, and just again know that this is like very, very, very hard to read, but it was incredibly well written. It was so atmospheric, so tragic and haunting, and just beautifully done. There were so many parts where I was wanting to cry and scream. Actually, there was one part where I was crying because it was really difficult to listen to. I was listening to the audiobook driving down the highway, and I was like, I'm gonna have a panic attack because this is so intense. So again, go into it, you know, with that fair warning, but this is gonna be an auto by author for me. Again, this is another one that I can't wait to get my hands on a physical copy, and it was so good. Ugh. Okay, next up, I read Night Watching by Tracy Sierra, and I got this me checking to make sure I said the author's name right. I got this recommendation from watching Gabby Rees read it in one of her recent vlogs, and I really liked it. So Gabby described it as more of like a slice of life thriller, not so much of that build up and tension, but honestly, I was reading it on my Kindle and I was like panting heavily in my brain reading it because I thought it was like really, really tense from the beginning to the end. So this follows our main character, who I didn't realize until the end of this book, but I don't think you get any names of any characters if I'm remembering correctly, which I thought really added to like the mystery and the tension. And is the narrator believable? Is she not? But we have the mom and her 2 small children who wake up in the middle of the night to a home invasion. They hide in a hidden compartment in the home, and then when they get out, the cops don't believe her. No one believes her. Her kids get taken away from her no matter what she says. They just don't believe anything that she has to say about it. So that commentary is very much in your face, but honestly, I thought it was done in a way that made sense for the story, and the addition of everyone's identity being kind of secretive, it lent itself to that commentary being like, hey, this is so in your face. No one ever believes women because they're women. This is another one that I had a lot of like visceral reactions to because of the content, but this was, I thought, a really great debut from this author. Quick read. I gave it 4 stars, and I would recommend it as a thriller if you enjoy unreliable narrator, don't mind a little bit of social commentary. This one's for you. The next book that I read is I Cheerfully Refuse by Leaf Anger, and this was 100% a cover by / influenced by the display at Barnes & Noble. This was, I believe, their May or April like monthly pick, and I really enjoyed this. It's literary fiction, so if that's not your jam, please skip forward, but I have a lot of literary fiction still unread on my shelves, and for some reason I still continue to buy more even though I'm not reading it as much. So I made a point when I purchased this to read it immediately. This is very much a fever dream of a literary fiction. So our main character, we follow him taking this boat out onto one of the Great Lakes up in like Michigan or Wisconsin to sail to a group of islands that him and his now deceased wife, who has just been murdered kind of because of him and his drama. He's going back to this island where they shared like a really special time to like kind of remember her and honor her memory, and we follow him as he does that. He gets a couple of compadres along the way, and this book is super weird, but it's very well written and very lyrical in its prose, so I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It has a lot of references to literature because the wife was a bookseller and the husband is a musician. So again, super lyrical, from the music stuff to the writing. There were a lot of quotes that I saved just because the writing was so pretty. The story, I think, was wild. Like, it blows my mind that this author just did you just wake up one day and think of this and we're like, I'm gonna write it really well too? But again, the cover is fantastic, so I'm really happy that I picked this up and that I own it. But Barnes & Noble, please stop with your stickers and stop with the not stickers. Like, I know you have to do your advertising, but you just kind of ruined this beautiful book that I bought from you. I gave you my money and I give you a lot of my money, so please listen. Thank you. The next book that I read is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose, and I listened to this on audio. I got lucky and got the Hold Off Libby like right when the book dropped, so that was pretty sweet. This is actually my first Geneva Rose book. I know she has a ton out there and she's like a really well-loved author. I myself have not read anything by her, so sorry. I just have this thing now where I'm convincing myself that I have like bald spots right here because of some of the shots that I see myself in, so it's fine. Everything's fine. Homes Where the Bodies Are follows the POVs of 3 siblings. The oldest daughter, Beth, her younger sister, I think her name was Christine or something. She is a drug addict, so their relationship is strained. And then the youngest is Michael, and he's the only one that like made it out of the town, and he's done something with his life. We get the opening of the story with Beth watching her mother expire in hospice from cancer, and right before she goes, she basically says, your dad didn't really disappear, don't trust, because the dad's been missing for like 15 years. So now Beth gets embroiled in this mystery, trying to figure out, well, is her dad alive? What really happened? And then we go back to the 1990s and get the mom's POV through journals about a summer that changed everything for the whole family and the whole community, and I really, really liked this. I gave it 4 stars. I definitely want to read some more of Geneva Rose's backlist when I get a chance to, but this was like so fun to listen to on audio. I absolutely blew through it, and it was one of those audiobooks where I was looking for an excuse to like put my AirPods in and listen. It was really well done. The narrators did a great job. It had like multiple narrators for all the POVs, so I thought it was great, and 4 stars. Put it on your really good summer thriller. Put it on your TBR for summer for sure. The next book that I read is The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown, and this is book 3, I believe, in the Robert Langdon series. The first 2 books being The Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons, which I have read a couple of times each in, you know, the last 15 years since they have the series has been come out and being written. But this one finds Robert Langdon in Washington, D.C., the U.S. Capitol, entrenched in just one of his other crazy ass schemes that he somehow finds himself in. I think I gave this one 4 stars. No, 3 stars, probably, surely. Nope, I gave this one 4 stars. You know, I'm gonna just stick it up here. One of my other reads this month was The Inferno by Dan Brown, which is book 4, and I gave that one 3 stars. That one sucked, and I don't think I'm gonna read the last one. But Dan Brown is just classic dad thriller, dad fiction, wears New Balances day in and day out. So if that's something that you're watching my channel for, please go ahead, and if you haven't read Dan Brown, definitely at least read books 1 and 2. The Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons are the best ones, but this one was pretty good. I didn't really care for The Inferno. I don't even know what book 5 is about. Again, I don't know if I'm gonna read it, so we're gonna move on. I'm gonna group these other 2 books together as well, but where am I? Okay, so the next book that I read is book 2 of the The War of Lost Hearts trilogy by Carissa Broadbent. So this one is Children of Fallen Gods, and then I also read Mother of Death and Dawn, which is book 3. I listened to both of them on audio / kind of switched back and forth with my Kindle, and I'm not gonna say too much about it because this book series this series is a trilogy, and each book is like this fat. They're really, really long. The plot is pretty extensive, and it gets kind of crazy in books 2 and 3, which I felt that it was almost too much. I felt that if Carissa Broadbent has stuck with just our one kingdom and not brought in the whole dual timelines with Aoife being Riche, I thought was very unique and interesting, but my god, it started slogging and then I got really confused. So I ended up giving both of these 3 stars. Again, I've said it before, I gave book 1 5 stars. I absolutely loved the beginning of this series, and then it just really like slogged for about another 1,000+ pages / 50 hours of listening time. So I love Carissa Broadbent. The Crowns of Nyaxia is a top tier romantasy duology, so not knocking it, but this wasn't my favorite trilogy romantasy that I've ever read. The next book that I read is When I'm Dead by Hannah Morrissey, which I'm not going to talk too much about it because I do have an upcoming video where I focus on this and some of my other May reads more, but this is a police procedural-ish mystery thriller, kind of more slow burn that follows a couple. The wife is a medical examiner and the husband is a homicide detective in the town that they live in, and they get a call that their daughter's best friend has been murdered, and then they can't find their daughter. So we are following this couple as they try to find their, they're racing against time to find the killer, who also most likely has their daughter. I actually really enjoyed this. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I thought it was a really quick read. It's not very long. It was fast paced and it was really well written. This is actually the 3rd book of a trilogy that takes place in the town, which makes a lot of sense for plot points and descriptions and kind of some dialogue that you get in this. I enjoyed it. It was a solid thriller. Okay, so I read A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen and I ate this up. It was so good. So this is a Norse mythology. This book follows our main character Freya, who finds herself out of her current marriage and in a new marriage with a Jarl that is looking for power, and he thinks he's found it in her as a fulfillment of a prophecy he got 20 years ago. But the best part is that she falls for his really, 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 really fine son Bjorn. So she's married to the Jarl, but she is secretly having a relationship with his son Bjorn. And we get, obviously there is a magic system in the prophecy, some gods, whatever, but I just loved the chemistry between Freya and Bjorn. A lot of people have mixed reviews on this one, but I personally really enjoyed it. It's silly, it's goofy, it's just, it's like these kinds of romanticies especially remind me of when you're reading and you just put something on TV for background noise. This is a background noise book. I don't know how else to describe it, and I love it. It was very popcorn, 4 stars, and I actually really like the ending and am very much looking forward to the rest of the series. I have the special edition from Fairy Lou, and I also ordered off Pango the original edition with the sprayed edges. So my passion for this book is running really strong. I'm kind of surprised by that, because a lot of people don't like it. Okay, the next book that I read is The Silver Blood Promise by James Logan, and this is the first book I've read by this author. I'm not sure if he has anything else out, but this was an absolute instant new favorite. 5 stars. Read it, this big ass book, in 2 days. I can't say enough good things about it. So it's following our main character Lucan, who is a very smart, very sharp guy that is kind of wasting his time gambling and drinking and not really doing much with his life. And then he finds out that his estranged father has been murdered. So he goes back to his home kingdom to try to figure out what happened to his dad. And then of course a lot of other, fantastical elements and storylines and plots kind of come into play, and I just loved everything about this. It very much felt like I was reading a murder mystery set in like Aladdin. Like the descriptions of the buildings, the dry climate, like everything about it gave like very desert vibes, Arabian Nights almost. And I think the world was great. The characters were really great. The climax was good. The confrontation was good. I highly recommend this, and it's the first of a series, The Last Legacy. I don't know if it's going to be like a trilogy or what it's going to be, but yeah, this is an instant new favorite, and also definitely an instant new favorite author. The Broken Minding book box that I am just waiting to get off the wait list for did a special edition of this, and it is so good. I'm so jealous of anyone that has it. If you have it and for any reason you don't want it, send it to me, send me a message. I'll love you forever. Thank you. Okay, this is the longest wrap up that's ever happened. Okay, the next book that I read is Bless Your Heart by Lindy Ryan. I borrowed this from the library. I just signed up for my new local library and it's awesome. I'm getting holds of new books like super fast, and I feel like I am saving money because I have been purchasing books, but I'm really trying to think about things that I would want to keep on my shelf, reread parts of series instead of just like buying kind of willy-nilly when I go in. So the library has really been helping, and I'm happy to support obviously my community. So follows a family of women in 3 or 4, I think, generations, and they own the only funeral home in a very small town in Texas, and we find out that they are also the protectors of the town from Strigoi, so kind of like ghoulish vampires, and we go from there. This book was so good. I gave it 4 stars, but honestly I could see myself rereading it before the subsequent books come out, because it is going to be a series, and giving it 4.5, maybe 5 stars. It was so good. So I love that we get all these POVs, and sometimes we got POVs of characters that were literally about to die or turn into the Strigoi. Love that we get the mystery of the paternity of the youngest daughters, like who her dad is, and we find out her connection to this outbreak of Strigoi in the town. I loved it. Got the recommendation from Olivia Reads a Latte, and it slapped. The next book that I read is Helpmeet by Nabin Ruthnum, and I read this on my Kindle. It was on Kindle Unlimited novella. It sounded really spooky and started out that way. We are following a couple who the husband is dying from syphilis, and all he wants is to be brought back to his ancestral home to die there. So the wife takes him back there, and some spooky stuff does happen, but honestly, like, for being a novella, I felt like I was reading it for 45 hours. The writing kind of got dry after the initial spookiness, and then the ending kind of took a turn that I was like, WTF, not in a good way. So I only gave this 2 stars, and that's all I have to say about that. Ugh, we're almost there, guys. Okay, the next book that I read is Diavola by Jennifer Marie Thorne, and this is also another new release that I got from the library. This is following our main character, Anna, if I'm remembering correctly. I already forgot the main character's names. I was right for once. So this is following our main character, Anna, who takes a trip to Florence with her entire family, including her twin brother, her sister, and her parents. And the villa that they end up renting is very clearly haunted by a local ghost that everyone knows about, and essentially the tourists feed the spirits in the house. So this was a really, really, really fun, fresh take on the haunted house trope, because it's taking place in Italy, in Florence. We're getting all this imagery of this beautiful food and drink and lush, like, pastoral landscapes, the art, the museums, all this stuff, and then it's interwoven into this very, 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 very scary haunted house. Our narrator, her family doesn't believe her, so we don't know if she's really possessed or if she's just mentally ill. I loved everything about this. It was so good. The cover is great. 4 stars. Ugh. This is another one that I really think I'm gonna have to buy for the bookshelves. I think it'll go nice with my, like, spooky, you can't see it, but I have Krampus right here, like my books with all their creepy faces. I don't know why I did this. The next, ugh, I hate when I have hair on me, even though it's my own hair. So the next book that I read is Everything We Didn't Say by Nicole Bart, and this is a slow burn mystery thriller following our main character going back to her hometown after many years of estrangement, including from her own 13-year-old daughter that lives with her mom and dad, so the kid's grandparents. And we find out that she was very closely involved in a murder of her 2 neighbors, and it involved her brother as well. So wow, that was a mouthful. This was okay. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Again, this is gonna come up in another video coming up soon, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but it wasn't my favorite thriller. I thought there was a lot of commentary on environmentalism and climate change, which obviously is a huge, important issue that we should be talking about, but I just didn't think it was well done in this. It would literally be like talking about, the main character would be having inner monologue about her feelings about her brother or about her ex that's also involved in this, and then in the next paragraph she's thinking about, like, appropriate practices for pesticides and farming, and it just felt like very jarring, that kind of like juxtaposition of all those different themes being talked about, like, back to back to back to back. So, and then it also slogged, so this wasn't my favorite. I ended up giving it 3 stars, and I'm honestly probably gonna include it in an unhaul coming up also at some point this year. Lord knows I need to do one. The next book that I read is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, and this is a YA thriller from our girl Holly Jackson, who is the author of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, which I've only read the first book but was fantastic. So this one follows our main character Belle, and she is part of a documentary, her and her dad, following the disappearance of her mom. So when Belle was like 2 or 3 years old, her mom just disappeared into thin air after taking her to the mall one day. They don't know what happened to her. No one's ever found a body, nothing. And they're running low on money, so they end up doing this documentary. Well, one day in the middle of filming, her mom, Rachel, just walks into the house and shows back up. And we follow from there. I really enjoyed this for being a YA thriller. I really like Holly Jackson's writing. I think it's very relatable, even if you're a little bit older like me. There was some language that I thought didn't make sense for it being YA, and it also felt jarring for our main main character, Belle. You know what? But now that I'm thinking about it, it was probably on purpose. So it made Belle seem like she was trying to be tougher and older than she really was. But I guess that's kind of the point. So never mind. Literary technique. You go. Holly Jackson. I really liked this. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really super fun. There is I think it's the Waterstones edition, is really, really good. So I might order that from the UK because I did really like this, but I borrowed it from the library. Again, 4 stars. Really add this also to your list for a fun summer TBR thriller. Okay, this book made me so emotional. Look, she tabbed a lip fic? Are you kidding me? Well, this one was more sci-fi. So this is The Ministry of Time by Kaylee Ann Bradley, and this was, I believe, my May Book of the Month pick, and this was 5 stars, an absolute new all-time favorite. This follows our main character, who is a part of the Ministry of Time, which we are told is a new faction of kind of like the FBI, CIA type, you know, it's a new faction of the government, and they deal in time travel and how that can affect / help the current, you know, state of things in the world and the government. And she is a bridge. So what she does is the ministry has figured out how to bring people to the current year from other points in history, and she is the bridge for a Arctic expeditioner, Commander Graham Gore, who's from 1847. So she literally has to live with him and like acclimate him to, you know, 20 whatever times it is. I think it's like 2049 or something like that. So it's like not far off from our current year. And then they fall in love. My goodness. This was so heartbreaking and beautiful and atmospheric, and every emotion that you can think of, I felt. Anger, confusion, frustration. Oh my God. It was so good. The romance is so good. The ending was so good. I loved everything about this. It is a little confusing. I personally always find anything that involves time travel or like portal type stuff to be kind of out there, but suspend your disbelief, give it a try. The cover is beautiful. The book was stunning. I absolutely love this, and honestly, I'm looking forward to rereading it already. We're gonna kind of group these together a little bit, even though they're 2 completely different, but fucking immaculate book. So I reread Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and then read for the first time Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This was a buddy read with my best friend, Allie. And Ninth House, obviously, I've read before. Well, I don't know, obviously, but I've read before. Like, she's very tapped up. So this was my first time rereading a book that I had annotated. And fun fact, this is the first book that I ever annotated. So this is like a very immature attempt at what I think now annotating is for me. Like, there was a lot of annotating of like places and plot points that were like so obvious. And now I more annotate for emotional response or for character development, or if it's like a high fantasy, sure, you need some help like keeping track of magic systems or maps or things like that. But anywhoozle, this was even better the second time around. I fucking love Alex Stern. I want to be her. I mean, not to brag, but I do have a snake tattoo with peonies like Alex Stern. So just saying, this was so good. If you don't know what this series is about, this follows our main character, Alex Stern, who is a bad girl from California who can see ghosts, and she gets invited full ride to be part of the Lethe House, which is the 9th house of the sacred historical houses of Yale that all have magic. This is dark academia at its finest. If you have not read anything dark academia, I really do think for how advanced Leigh Bardugo's fantasy writing can be, this is a really accessible dark academia read, and it's so good. Her writing, I think in this one, does not get any better. I've read some of her YA, and I have just recently read The Familiar, which I also loved, but like, in my humblest, not humble opinions, 9th house is top tier Leigh Bardugo at her finest. And then I read Hellbent. I was like, psych. This was even better. Hellbent, I don't want to do spoilers because this is one of my absolute favorite series of all time now that I have finally read Hellbent. So I really want you, whoever's watching this, to please read it and then talk to me about it, because I'm still not over it. So Hellbent picks up right where we left off in 9th house a few months later, but you do get the backstory, and we're trying to get Darlington back. back, baby. We need him. So yeah, you can see that like my tabbing situation was a lot different this time around. I actually never even set up my annotation key for this, so I should probably do that. I kind of just was like going as I went, but this was so good. Darlington had nothing to do with it, no matter how good he looked with his clothes off. You ain't gonna tell me, girl. I really don't want to talk too much about this, no spoilers, but this is a 5-star. This is an infinity star. Please, 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 please read them. I cannot wait for book 3. If anyone knows any details about it, please tell me, because I'm horrible at keeping up with like release dates and when series are going to be completed and such and things like that. So, ooh, I gotta hurry up. My butt is hurting on the floor. Okay, the next book that I read is The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd. If you're not sick of me saying it already, I'm not gonna talk too much about this one either because it does come up in another book. But so The Cartographers follows our main character Nell, who has been estranged from her father for many, many years, and he is found dead in his office at the New York Public Library where she used to intern for him. And it comes to fruition that all of this murder and mystery and intrigue and interfamily disconnections and drama is all stemming from a map that Nell found when she was an intern at the library. And with that map, and only that map, can you see a town on it that doesn't exist to anyone else unless they have the map. So this, I think, is just one of the most unique magical realism literary fictions that I have ever read. Again, I talk about it more in another video, but I gave this 4 stars, and I think Peng Shepherd has another book coming out later this year, and I cannot wait to read that because this was so good, and I can't believe I had it on, again, my shelf for so long without having picked it up. But yeah, look out for the video in question. You'll know when you see it. I talk about it more there, but this was really good. The next book that I read is Heavenbreaker by Sarah Wolf, and this is another new release that I got from the library, but I loved this one so much, and it's a special edition. I had to go ahead and pick it up from Barnes, so I went the other day and got it. There's all my receipts and free stuff. Like, look at these end pages, end papers, whatever you call them. Naked, very nice. Like, had to have it. So this is probably one of the wildest books that I've ever read in regards to what genre it is. Like, all the blurbs talk about how genre bending and what a fusion of genres it is. It absolutely was. So this is, it gives sci-fi, it gives romantasy, it gives high fantasy, it gives Hunger Games, it gives Pacific Rim. It's so good. I don't even want to describe to you what it's about, but I'm gonna do my best. So this follows our main character, Sonali, who is now orphaned after her mother was murdered by her father's house. He sends a killer to kill them both, but she escaped. She is the bastard daughter of a very high-ranking lord that she turns around and kills, and then she kind of wants to like go out with a bang. So she steals one of these giant like Pacific Rim robotic humanoid suits that they use in this world to fight in gladiator style, and instead of unaliving herself, she ends up embroiled in this like multi-house vendetta competition, romance, intrigue. The cover is dope. The edges are great. The title is fantastic. I'm telling you, it was 5 stars. You just need to read it. Read the synopsis if you want, but honestly, I went into this blind, kind of just knowing that it was very sci-fi, fantasy, romantasy, like a blend of different things, and it gave exactly that. If you have seen the movie Pacific Rim, this is going to very much remind you of that, but it's all in space. Also, I forgot to tell you, it's all in space. I absolutely ate this shit up. I cannot wait for Hellbreaker. Sarah Wolf, please give it to me ASAP. Thank you. Okay, the next book that I read is My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna Van Veen, and again, this was another new release that I got from the library. So this follows our main character, Roos, who is a woman that has a spirit companion. So she has a ghost that is attached to her from childhood. It's always around. She's the only one that can see her, and her mother is a piece of garbage and treats her terribly. And then we also start getting excerpts of many years later when Roos has been hospitalized or institutionalized and she's getting interviewed. This was honestly, it went in a direction that I didn't see. It went down this like sapphic romance route, and are these characters actually bound to spirit companions? Can they actually see behind the veil, or are they? I think the theme of unreliable narrator versus mental illness and horror, when done right and done well, is such a good mechanism, literary mechanism, to get you to really question the plot and kind of like immerse yourself better in the story. And this one I thought did it so well. Again, I love the cover. I really think this is another one that I'm gonna have to pick up, but I gave this one 4 stars. Absolutely loved it. This one and Diavola are like my top recommendations for horror going into the summer. Very quick reads, good beach reads if you're not looking for a typical beach read. I'm gonna say Diavola and My Darling Dreadful Thing. Okay, I missed this one somewhere, so we're gonna just talk about it, but oh my god, my hair is stuck in my glasses. Okay, the FOMO that I have had for quite some time about this series got too great for me to handle, so I read A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn, which is book 1 of the Veronica Speedwell series, which so many of my favorite booktubers absolutely love this series, and I am now no different. I ended up giving this 4 stars, and since having read this, I have read book 2, which I will talk about later, A Perilous Undertaking. I love everything about this series. The historical fiction aspect of it, science, the animals, the romance, the banter. When people said that the banter between Veronica and Stoker was so good, I like didn't realize how good, and I really enjoy the murder mysteries that we're getting. So long story short, this series follows our main character Veronica, who teams up in book 1, this one, with Stoker, who is a taxidermist and she is a lepidopterist. So she studies butterflies and he is a taxidermist, and they get embroiled in book 1 in this mystery involving Veronica's birth and her patronage, and also a friend of theirs that gets murdered because he's trying to protect this secret that Veronica doesn't even know she has. I just love everything about this. The covers are so good. The only thing I don't like is this is writing for ants. My blind ass cannot. So yeah, it's kind of hard to read, especially at night, because the font is so small and not bold enough, but if that's the only complaint that I have, I should probably shut the hell up. The next book that I read is The Edge by David Baldacci, and this is book 2 of the 620 Man series. So Travis is back, and now he's traveling to the middle of nowhere, icy cold Maine, to investigate a murder of a young woman that is part of the CIA. Her brother and sister still live in town in their family's big like familial mansion, and Travis is trying to figure out who unalived her. Dad thriller vibes. I gave this one 3 stars. I also gave the 620 Man 3 stars. I don't know if I'm going to continue with David Baldacci. His writing just like, there's something about it that doesn't give me what like Orphan X or Terminal List gives me. Jack Carr, excuse me. So it was fine. It was okay. It was 3 stars. I listened to it. It listened okay. It didn't take me too long, but it just 620 Man and this one both just get to a point about 3/4 of the way through where I could have not told you a single thing that happened. So then by the ending, I'm like, I don't care. I don't remember what happened. Whew, okay. The next book that I read is One Among Crows by Veronica Roth, and this is another brand new release that I got from my library. Thank you, Library God. This is a novella that is very heavily entrenched in Polish folklore. It is following our main character, Demeter, who is a monster hunter, and he teams up with a woman that is kind of like this world's version of a vampire, but she she eats sorrow, I don't know, something like that. And then there's a third guy who also has some sort of a power, and they have to work together to relieve the girl's curse and also help Demeter find the Baba Yaga witch that he needs to kill. I didn't understand the point of this. By the end of the book, although it was very quick and short, it's only 160 pages, was like, it just felt like a story that didn't need to be told. And maybe I'm crazy. If anyone else gets to this new release and you have a different feeling about it, or I missed something, please let me know in the comments. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. It was fine. It was a quick read. My throat is dry. Okay. The last book that I read in the month of May is The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai, and I'm gonna talk about it in another video. But this is a cute rom-com following Daisy Patel and Liam Murphy. So it's a brother's best friend, but from 10 years ago. And that was one of the problems that I had with this, was that like insta-love we were supposed to believe between Daisy and Liam after they see each other again 10 years after he ditched her at the prom. We're supposed to believe that they like still have these crazy feelings for each other, but I don't know. This was okay. I initially gave it 4 stars, but by the time that I got done talking about it in my other video. I ended up giving it 3.75. It was fine. It was a quick read. It was a cute little rom-com. It's part of a little trilogy by this author. Do I think I'm gonna read the other two? I don't think this was good enough to compel me to do so, but again, we'll talk about it more in another video. I'm sure I've been talking for like an hour straight. Okay, with that, those are the 28 books I read in May. Thank you so much if you sat here with me and watched along. I hope you get some good recommendations for your summer TBR. Please let me know what you're reading or what you're really excited about for summer. Any new releases that you're looking forward to, let me know in the comments because I also am interested in them. Thank you again for watching. Please feel free to check out some other videos I'm going to put up on the screen. But for now, bye!